I feel like going through a breakup is probably the most instrumental time in roughly any person's life. Just because you've been with somebody for so long, and then you have to get used to what life is like without them. And that added freedom can have some obvious benefits, but there's also a lot of downsides. So I want to share with you guys what to do in the case of a breakup, and I want to share with you what I've done during both of my breakups, because I've been through two that were, I'd consider like real long-term relationships. And I kind of just want to explain to you guys what I did wrong and what I did right in both cases, and how you can kind of learn from my mistakes and what I did right and apply it to your own life, because it's hot in this car. But because, like I said, going through a breakup, it's a very influential time period, and if you don't do the right things, you're going to stay the same or regress, and you're just going to be unhappy. But I promise you, if you're somebody who's going through something similar, going through a breakup, you're feeling down, feeling low and depressed, it does get better. It will get better. The time will go regardless. So what you need to do is take the actionable steps to get the most out of that time and get the most out of your future when you're in this stage. So to kind of start things off, in terms of my story, my first real relationship ended after like 9 months, I want to say. And towards the end of the relationship, I wasn't treated right, but it was because she didn't really like me, and that's fine. That's how that goes. But she kind of pulled away during the end of the relationship. I remember, this was years ago, but she essentially pulled away from me and ended up breaking up with me after pulling away for a while. And I remember I was lost. I was so broken. And this is mistake number one I made, right? During this first breakup, I came clawing back. I wanted her back so bad, and I wanted her back because I was comfortable, and I forgot what life was like without her. So I wanted that comfortability back because that was all I was used to. I was just used to having somebody there for me 24/7, and the second I was on my own, I didn't know what to do. And I kind of just was in this stage for a while where all I was really thinking in my head and all I was really like processing was, I want her back. It wasn't, oh, let me try to get over this. So the first thing you need to understand is that you should never try to get somebody back after they break up with you, or if you break up with them. The second a relationship's over, and I know this sucks to hear because a lot of you were probably in the same boat that I was in, the second a relationship's over. It's done. Don't go back. There's a reason it ended, and that reason's not going to magically change. And I'll explain how this ended up being bad and why I should have never went back, because obviously that's what I did. But I'll explain why you shouldn't do that and what's going to happen whenever you do go back. So we were kind of broken up for around 3 months and got back together, right? She reached out to me after I kind of just had given up, and then she reached out to me. And then from there, ended up talking again, ended up dating. And I realized, I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted her back all this time, and then when I had her back, I realized maybe that wasn't what I wanted. Maybe I really liked being on my own. And then I started to slowly realize that I wasn't treated right. And whenever you fully come to the conclusion that somebody didn't treat you right and that they didn't deserve you, you completely detach from that individual. And I know that sounds crazy to think about, especially if you're going through a recent breakup and you're super attached to them. But I promise you, once you come to the conclusion that you were not treated right, that you were done wrong in that relationship, you will not want them back. So as this relationship goes on, after we got back together, I don't remember how long we were together again. I think it was 6-7 months. But we were together for that a lot of time period. And then I finally realized I wasn't happy. I didn't want to be in the relationship because I realized that I was deserving of more. So I went through a breakup again, except this time it was me ending it. And here's mistake number 2. Because I was still sad during the breakup, right? You're not just going to magically break up with somebody and get over them the next day. That's not the reality of things. What I did was I distracted myself with things that were not progressing me as a man. I distracted myself with hookups. I distracted myself with going out to the bar, with drinking, with smoking. I became a completely different person just because I had that added freedom. And remember what I said, that added freedom can be good, but in most cases it's not. Because if you're not doing the right things with that freedom, you're just going to regress. Whenever you're in a relationship, you can't do all those things. Somebody's there holding you accountable. And whether you realize it or not, there's a good chance that that person is kind of making you more level-headed. So when you go through the breakup, you need to expand on that and try to improve in different facets of your life, as opposed to distracting yourself from the relationship. The first thing you need to do is process. You don't need to distract yourself, because what you're doing there is you're filling the void. Okay? There's going to be a void after the breakup. And if you fill the void instantly, you're not recovering. You're just filling that void with something else. And then when that leaves, you're going to be back to where you were. If that void is alcohol, then you're going to drink and drink and drink until you realize that drinking is the only thing that makes you happy. And then whenever you stop drinking, you're going to be sad again. The same thing with smoking. If you smoked every single day after your breakup just to get over it, the second you go sober and stop smoking, you're going to realize all you were doing was smoking to get over that person. The second that void is not filled again, you're going to be depressed. So the key is not to fill the void. And I know that sucks. And I know that's hard. But you have to allow yourself to process. Sorry, like I said, this car is really fucking hot. You have to process, and you cannot fill that void. Filling the void is the worst thing you can do. And that's what I did. I filled the void for months and months, like 3 months. And during this time, I was talking to multiple girls at one time. I didn't really care about like hurting anyone's feelings. Didn't care about being a great dude. I just cared about that temporary fun because I hadn't had it because I was in a relationship for so long. And then eventually, that temporary fun led me to finding a new girlfriend. Again, I never had an unfilled void. The void was always filled with something. And that's why I wasn't progressing. I didn't progress because I had the void filled. I filled it with partying. I filled it with other girls. And then I got a new girlfriend and the void was filled with that girlfriend. So once I got into the new relationship, obviously I was comfortable. Obviously I was happy. I wasn't progressing because there was no void to fill. There was no need for me to develop any further as a man because the person I was had pulled the person that she was. So therefore, I didn't need to keep improving. Sure, I was going to the gym. Sure, I was taking school serious. I've always been a good student. I wasn't doing anything to improve in other facets of my life and become a better, more successful person. I didn't do any of that. So this relationship went on for a while, around 2 years. And towards the last 2 to 3 months of the relationship, I entered prep for a bodybuilding show. And this was the first serious prep I entered for a bodybuilding show. And during this time, I kind of found some newfound motivation and passion because I absolutely love the sport. I've dedicated the past couple of years to the sport, and I was in a position where I could do pretty well and compete, so I was very excited for it. And bodybuilding prep, if you don't understand bodybuilding, it's a very difficult time. It's very hard. It strains your mental health. It strains your relationships. Bodybuilding is not a sport for the weak. So by doing this, I strained my relationship, and I wasn't in that comfortable spot. Because of that, I couldn't put as much into the relationship. I couldn't go out to eat. I couldn't do all these fun things because I had to eat on a meal plan. I was in prep. And during this time, that's when the relationship regressed. So during that regression period, we were both home for summer, and then she went off to college. When she went off to college, she broke up with me about a week later. So now I'm back in this uncomfortable situation because this is the second time now that I've gone through a breakup. And the first thing I understand and the first thing I remember is that if it's done, right? I learned from my previous mistakes. So after we had stopped texting a couple weeks after the breakup, whatever, I'm not aiming to go back anymore. I realize that I know my worth, and I understand that going back will do nothing. Okay? Going back never has any good. You cannot go back once the relationship ends. It will not be the same. No matter what, it will not be the same. I need you to understand that. And it sucks to hear, but it will never be the same. You need to get that through your head immediately. So I realized that obviously that was not my place anymore. That's not my relationship anymore. I'm done. I have to move on with my life. But I also realized that one, I'm in bodybuilding prep, so I can't even do those things to distract me. I can't drink. I can't go out with girls. I could smoke, but I didn't want to smoke, right? I didn't want to distract myself because I realized and recognized that the last time I had gone through a breakup, I didn't progress. I stayed the same. And sure, I might have been happy during this time period, but I was happy because of artificial dopamine. I was happy because of things that weren't actually making me happy. They were just filling a temporary void. So once you stop filling that void, that's when you progress. And I realized I didn't need to fill that void, right? I was on bodybuilding prep, and the way that I filled that void, which I didn't, but the things I did to make myself feel better were, one, I processed. The first thing you need to do is process. That's the first step. I processed the whole relationship. I understood why it went wrong, what happened, and I also processed that she was no longer a part of my life, and I had to accept that. It's okay to feel. It's normal to feel. You can't just go ghost on your emotions and let yourself not process anything. You have to process what you're going through in order to get past it. So I process things, and it takes some time. It's hard, right? It's not easy when you've been with somebody for 2 years and then poof, they're gone. So I process those emotions. And as I process those emotions, I feel them, I see those emotions, and I let them pass. Sure, there were nights where I was up late. Sure, there were days where I didn't want to do anything and I felt like shit. but I didn't let those emotions dictate the actions I took as a person. So I did everything I needed to do during bodybuilding prep, and I used that as a facet in order to find happiness. The gym is your best friend during a breakup, and I know that's so cliche, but it's so extremely true. Because every single time you're going there, you're bettering yourself. You're doing something that's hard, that some people don't do, and you're doing it solely for the purpose of you. Don't go to the gym to get that girl back. Don't go to the gym to impress other girls. Go to the gym so that you have a body and a mindset you can be proud of. If you're proud of yourself, and you're doing things for you and not for somebody else, you will truly find happiness, and I mean that. So the first thing you need to do is process and take actionable steps to become a better person. Now, the next thing I did, I got to the bodybuilding show and competed, did well, had a great time, whatever, right? From there, the next thing I did was I realized that I couldn't resort back to that artificial dopamine now that prep was over. Sure, did I go out on occasion? Yes. Did I smoke on occasion? Not really. But I did those things as temporary happiness. And I realized now, especially, that I was still filling the void in some sorts, right? I was still going out, partying, whatever, just because I had the freedom to, and I didn't have to worry about somebody, like, not telling me to do that, not worrying about me. So I did that on occasion, but I also realized that it wasn't improving me. And if I wanted to truly improve, which I did, I had the passion to improve, then I needed to get away from those things. So I get away from that. Sure, I go out on occasion, like I said, but I keep it at a moderate pace so that it's not something that's overall impacting my quality of life. I make sure that the things that are making me happy are the things that fulfill me. I still wake up early, still go to the gym every day, still do my schoolwork every day. I'm doing things that fulfill me. And from there, what I realize is that I'm progressing physically and I'm progressing mentally, right? But I'm not progressing towards my future and I'm not progressing financially, okay? I was doing good in the gym. I was doing good in school. I was doing good mentally. I had now found happiness, but I realized there was two things missing: success and God. When I was going through this breakup, I was in a very rough time, and I had drawn away from God during that relationship and through the past. And I want to touch on all of that in a whole different video and talk to you guys about how finding God truly helped me find myself. But while I was going through this period and I was in a rough state, my roommate asked me to go to church, and I went to church for the first time in probably 3 years. And I realized that God is accepting. And I know that sounds cliche, but God will always welcome you back with open arms. And I remember listening to the homily a couple weeks after that breakup, and I remember crying during the homily. I remember how touching it was to me. Because and it wasn't even because of the homily itself, it was because it took me going through something that upsetting to me to finally find God. So my advice to you in that facet is, if you are trying to find a relationship with God, it shouldn't take a monumental thing to find God again. God is always welcoming you with open arms, and if you truly accept Him and you truly accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, He will find you, and He will welcome you with open arms. So I find this relationship with the Lord again. I start reading my Bible, and it gives me that newfound mental clarity. And now I have this relationship with God. So the 3 things that I did to start off, right? I first processed, I let the emotions go, I worked on facets of my life, I worked on bettering my body and mind, and then I found a relationship with God. Now, the 4th thing is taking actionable steps to foster success. I was in a position where I was in school, I was doing good, but I wasn't progressing towards what I wanted to do for my future. So I sat down with myself and was like, all right, what do I want to do with my future? Who do I want to be? Who does Brandon want to be? And I realized that my passion was fitness. Everything I loved everything about the gym. I realized that fitness was what I wanted to do. And I realized that I had a good social media following. I realized that a lot of people looked up to me, but I wasn't doing anything with it. I was giving out decent advice, but I was mainly just posting my physique with no real value. So I started, and I didn't really know where I wanted to go with it at first, but I just started posting value. I started posting stuff that would actually help people. And the response was great. I might not have had as many views because it wasn't just my physique and me posing half naked, but I was helping people. And just like I'm doing now, I was helping people level up in every facet of their life, just like I did, and just like I want to see each one of you do. So I kind of found that passion, and I realized, like, why don't I turn this into a career? And that's why I started fitness coaching. That's why I started my business. And in my head, I didn't care about money. I didn't care about gaining more followers. I cared about helping people, because I know there's so many people that were in my shoes and that were either going through a breakup, going through a tough time mentally, weren't happy with their physique, weren't happy with their confidence, their body, their mindset, whatever it may be. I knew I could help. So I started fitness coaching, and through that, I found what I now consider my future career path. Through posting so much content, I accumulated deals with companies and UGC deals. And I started to make a livable income while I'm in college through that. And all of that was because I decided I wanted to level up in that facet of my life. The second you make that decision and the second you decide you want to improve, that's when you'll actually improve. You have to take those actionable steps and find out who you want to be. Find out who you really are. And once you find that out, then chase that person, become that person, embody that person, and you will be that person. But only if you take the actionable steps and only if you believe it. So the lessons here are that, one, filling the void will never do anything for you. If you fill the void, you're a loser. You're not going to progress at all. If you fill the void after a breakup with drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it may be, you're staying the same. You're not even healing. You're simply going out and partying away all of your depression and all of those emotions you have bottled up. Feel those emotions and let them pass. That is the first thing. Feel everything you need to feel and let them pass. And I didn't do that at first, like I said. Once you get over those distractions, you will level up so much. So much. And the next things you need to do, find a workout routine. Get in the gym. Better your body and mind. And do it for you. Don't do it for somebody else, because you don't have that somebody else anymore. You have you. And now this is the first time in a while that you finally had you and you only. So do things for you and nobody else. Be better for you so that you have something to be proud of. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone except yourself. The next thing I did, obviously, I found that relationship with God, and I highly recommend you all aim to do that. Finding the relationship with God truly brought me happiness and truly brought me peacefulness and mindfulness. And I needed that. I didn't realize how badly I needed that. And once I had that, I had the courage and I had the drive and I had the mentality and the physique and the mindset to start my business and find my future. So all of that came from a breakup. All of that came from me getting my heart broken. I found my passion. I created my future. I created my first business. I found my relationship with God all because of a breakup. So I need you to understand that breakups are an absolute blessing. And whether you realize it or not, whether it feels like it or not, that breakup is the best time in your life to progress and to become a better you. So if you made it to the end and you're still watching this, and this is something that you are actively struggling with, please become a better you. And more importantly, do it for yourself. Don't do it for that other person. Don't do it to try and get them back. Don't do it to prove yourself to anyone. The only person you have to prove yourself to is you.